minute. Well, how do you think I feel about what's been going on? Let's talk about me for a minute. Well, how do you think I feel about what's gone wrong?
You're now listening to A-Rod Music.
Well, how do you think I feel about what's been going on? Let's talk about me for a minute. Well, how do you think I feel about what's been going on? Let's talk about me for a minute. Well, how do you think I feel about what's been going on?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening. I'm your homeboy host, the one, the only Awesome Nobody. I'm an artist manager turned podcaster. See how I flipped it, then flipped it again. Call myself the corner sorters, rap shit. Interested in all stories, not just the ones that I'm telling. Everybody has a great story. I want to hear it. Trying to give the listeners something to motivate them behind the scenes and trying to get them to get the information to just, get out there and get it, if you know what I mean. So this next guest on the show does what I call motivate the motivators. She's bringing producers to the forefront and keeping them in conversations along with the artist. And you might see her tweet from time to time, pay your producer. She's been a prominent figure on the Twitter and the producer scene since 2009. So without further ado, I need y'all to help give me a warm welcome to the show. SJ manager, Sarah.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Shout out to all the producers. Shout out to Awesome Nobody. Thank you so much for having me today.
No, thank you for making the time, and thank you for being that voice of consistency for the producer community. I think that definitely people like you and your work and just keeping their name, being a producer name up there has really helped them.
No doubt, no, for sure. I love helping out producers. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm really all about the underdog producers. I love helping producers get their foot in the door. I think it's so important for producers without a name to get into this business. I know so many producers that turn on the radio and you hear, the same producers over and over again. And I think it's really time, over these last few years to just break new producers. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Find producers. There's so many undiscovered producers right now, and I'm getting tracks in from everywhere, and I really love helping, producers that don't have any place.
Dope. That's dope. So, on this episode, I kind of want to talk a little bit about, of course, the producers, the tips, the behind the scenes things, but I definitely want to know a little bit about you, not too much. So briefly, can you talk about some of the people you've worked with in the past?
Yeah, for sure. So I've worked with a lot of major artists. I've also worked with a lot of independent artists. I used to place a lot of records on mixtapes. It goes back to Jim Jones, to 50 Cent, Young Buck, Banks, Fab, Crooked Eye, Meek, French. And so over the years, me just placing tracks on a bunch of mixtapes, a lot of people reached out to me, you know what I mean? They'd be like, hey, where'd you get that beat from? And they'd say Sarah J somehow, and they would reach out to me. And I tell producers, it can happen for you like that too. Once people fuck with you and they know that you have good music and you're consistent, they will reach out to you. You don't have to do so much chasing. So that's basically what I've done over the years, is just supply and demand, to supply people with great work, great music, great mixes, formatted tracks, shit that just sounds professional. And
Dope.
It's just, over the years, brought the business back to me.
Okay. So where are you originally from? Was it a huge music scene? And how did it all start? How did you one day the light bulb go off and you just say you know what? I can do this.
I'm originally from the Chi.
Okay.
I travel around a lot, working out of different studios. Then also when I was living in DC, I worked with a lot of, artists, producers, engineers, and a lot of my friends were always in the music business. And so I kind of just found my niche. I started off really networking heavy on MySpace. And,
that's a throwback.
Managing one producer. And then kind of when I didn't get the sound I wanted from just one producer, I started to reach out to other producers.
Okay.
And on MySpace, it's really easy to connect with people all over.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to get in tracks from just different producers, and I started to move the records around. And like I said, I got a lot of mixtape placements at first, but like I tell producers,
Yeah.
that shit turns into album work. You
Yeah.
know? So you got to just kind of build your foundation
Mm-hmm.
and just see where it takes you. So yeah.
That's dope. So Chicago, stand up, huh? Chi-Town.
Yes.
Now, before you got into the business, like, did you used to run into people in Chicago? Because, you know, I'm assuming this before the whole drill explosion, but there was a lot of music coming out of Chicago at one point.
No, it wasn't like that for me, especially. It just seemed like I would be networking more with people that were, in different cities. But, I know No ID and Common and Twister and all those people that came out of the Shy. But
Okay.
it's like I would bump into them a little bit later in my music career. So, so yeah, more when I started moving around.
Got it. That's a big name. No ID.
Yeah, shout out No ID.
So how would you describe yourself? Like, how would you describe if somebody would say, they talk to SJ Manager? How would you describe yourself?
I'm definitely a socialite. I'm a power player. I love connecting people. I love networking. I just love working. You know what I mean? I love getting shit done. I'm pretty self-motivated. You know what I'm saying? Like, I work off of producers' work ethic. So over the years, if certain producers send me shit, like, consistently, like,
Yeah.
I'm consistently shopping them. You know what I'm saying? If a producer falls off and I don't hear from them in a couple years, like, I'm on to the next producer. So I just like to stay motivated. I like to just keep shit fresh. This game is forever changing, so you have to learn to adapt. And I tell producers that all the time. You just need to stay in people's face. You need to travel a lot. You need to network. You can't take no for an answer. It's all about you and the groundwork that you do in this business. You know what I'm saying? Like, we live in a visual world right now. So as producers, if you're not out here, shaking hands with people, networking crazy, going to beat battles, conferences. I don't care if you win. Like, it's not always about like who wins at these things. It's about connecting the dots with people that, have budgets and that have been in the game for a while. And once you meet people that have real shit going on, they will reach back out to you if you have great music and you're already connected with them in person. You know what I'm saying? But you got to get out of this whole Gmail thing and staying in the crib. Like, you got to go further.
Major key right there. Major key right there. Yeah, that's right. Before internet, people had to, what they call beat the pavement. They had to take it hand to hand with it. And that's definitely a huge part that like you said, I believe has been forgotten. They think they could just send it to somebody. And I heard a couple things from what you were saying. First thing you said was working, right? That is huge. Working, just understanding a work ethic. I think a lot of times, like you said, people will send something and then expect it to blow because they sent one thing. And it's a basically a 9-to-5 job that you got to do this. Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah.
And then the second thing was the consistency, and then going back to it, one time is not consistent. 2 times is not even consistent. You have to get upwards into the 200s, 300s, 400s. That's consistency.
Word.
And that's a lot of information that I don't hear from people. I don't know if you remember this. We actually crossed paths a few years ago. I was an artist, doing, and one of my close friends was a producer, and wanted to sort of get him out there a little bit more. So I booked a session with you, and then you set up the call, and then sent you the beats beforehand, and then you gave some feedback on it, and then
I remember.
Yeah, you remember? Yeah. We did a couple projects, but like you said, now understanding the definitions between those two things that you said, like the working and consistency, he just wasn't being as consistent with the beats. He more so wanted to do his own thing. Well, I understand it. I guess it's kind of like you create your own child. You want to see it raised up the way you want to raise it. But I just tried to introduce him to like what you were saying. Like, there's a bigger world out here, and you got to let people hear your stuff. Like, you can't just have the hard drive with 10,000 beats on it and be like, yo, one day they're gonna find this and be like, yo, he was dope. You got to go out there, literally beat by beat, person by person, hand by hand, event by event, and build an army.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
know,
Yeah, I tell producers that all the time. Like, you know, it doesn't do you any justice to have, hella beats just sitting there on your hard drives over the years. Oh, I'm gonna wait for, Jay Z or Jeezy to jump on this, but I'm not sending anything, unless it's exclusive and I'm in the room with them. And I'm like, dude, you're
yeah,
not
yeah,
getting in the room with these
yeah,
guys like
yeah,
on a
yeah.
daily basis, so you might as
Mm-hmm.
well start just
Mm-hmm.
shopping your shit around, and you
Yep.
could always make more. That's what I tell
Yep.
producers. Like, you can always make more the way that you guys make beats.
They expect to be dancing on a table like Kanye, right? Rapping
Hmm.
lyrics. Nah, it's not gonna work like that. No, it's not.
Right.
But yeah, and I definitely think that that small meeting was a bigger door for me. I really
Hmm.
pushed more of the music, and then I remember just following you and seeing some of your posts actually made me understand like the importance of a producer. Like I know the importance of a producer. You get what I'm saying? But it's like when you actually start talking about splits and things like that, that's when the real value comes in. Like if you value a producer that much that you're gonna split it with them or give them credit, that's a
Right.
whole different conversation. Because after I stopped doing some of his production, and this is to
Hmm.
my own detriment, I didn't know I was getting free beats from YouTube or that Piff,
Hmm.
and I felt
Oh
bad. I
yeah,
seen your
that's it.
post. You like pay the producer. I'm like, damn, I ain't pay for none of these.
Oh
I
wow.
know I felt so bad, but I
Yeah.
think that is and we can have that conversation later because I definitely want to talk about some of the free beats, but
Hmm.
and then after that, after I saw your post, then I started actually getting with legit producers and buying beats,
That's what's up. Yeah, you
yeah,
have to pay your producers.
mhm,
I mean, it's like any other business. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're an artist and you're working with some producers and you're just, in the studio with them and they're giving you, like their whole catalog and they're fucking recording you and being cool and shit and doing agreements with you, like you gotta break your producer off.
mhm,
I mean, you should really definitely have that conversation up front, you guys,
yeah,
before you start recording so you know what it is, you know what I'm saying? So everybody's on the same page, but
yeah, I
have to put
agree.
some money in your producer's pocket for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, I definitely agree. So, a couple more questions about you and more just about your role. Like, so I know you said like you always were interested, but then like when did you really realize like yo, you really were in it? Like, how did you really get into your role where, you are the person now? Like when you were traveling, doing the shows, did it sort of start? Was it a long start or did it start like overnight? Like, how did you get into the full fledged, producer manager?
That's a good question. Like, I think it just kind of spiraled over the years. I would say, like, I was going back and forth to New York and LA, sitting down with A&Rs, having meetings. I got sick of sending in beat CDs. I was like, you know what, fuck this shit. I'm gonna go book meetings with these guys. I'm going to be in front of them. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to build this relationship. And that's exactly what I did. And I think doing that, like, I no longer was somebody, sending stuff to a mailroom
Yeah.
at Def Jam or G Unit or whatever. I was in these guys' offices. These guys are now my friends, and we call on each other, you know what I mean, for
Hmm.
different plays, for different opportunities. And like I said, if I never did that and I never invested so much time and money into FedExing beat CDs and also traveling to go see these people, I wouldn't be in this position. So I would say that really helped me. And I would do a lot of music conferences and music panels. And so I would book these guys on my panels, and then they would start booking me on their panels for different showcases in different cities. And we did like every city you could think of. um, I miss those days, you know what I'm saying? Now I'm doing more producer sessions by myself, but been talking to my A&R colleagues. We're going to get back to some things that we used to do a few years ago and just get that shit going again too. But this is all about relationships. And I think that the more that you increase your network, it's just going to bring you more opportunities. You're going to tap into other projects that people are working on with budgets and things like that. So um, it definitely has been a slow grind over the years. Um, and like I said, not taking no for an answer. If
Hmm.
somebody doesn't reply to you or you don't get the response that you want, like, don't take that shit personal. Like, I've seen producers quit because, this person didn't hit them back fast enough or they didn't get the reaction that they wanted. They didn't fuck with their beats. Who cares? Like, just find somebody that likes your music. You're not going to please everybody. You know what I'm saying? Just like, this social media
Yeah.
should just open up everything. This is like an open playing field now, and just find people that want to fuck with you. You know what I'm saying? And that value you, and that you trust, and that you can get work done with. Period.
Yeah, no, that's a good point because, just being an artist and then you're right, I've been to beat battles or showcases and I've
Hmm.
seen the face of, let's say, a producer when they don't get when the whole room doesn't go crazy, and they
Yeah,
like or
yeah,
immediately get upset, and you like, okay, it's a room of 300 people, you at least got 200 people going crazy, but they're like, this back
right.
corner wasn't, so it's F everybody, you're right, and I get that, you put so much, personal things on your beats, and somebody dissing your
Yeah,
song or your beat is like dissing you, but at the same time, it's not, it's just,
yeah,
how they're feeling at the moment. I mean, if you think about like beat battles or rap battles, they say somebody might win in the room, then somebody goes home, and then they actually be like, you know what, hearing it again, they actually,
yeah.
lost or won or whatever. So music, I think you're right. They can't be so quick to react to something they never heard from. You got to give people time to digest it from time to time.
You got to have really thick skin in this business too. Like,
Hmm.
there's just some crazy people in this business. You're gonna get tested. You're gonna have people that doubt you. You're gonna have family members that don't believe in you. You're gonna have
That's true.
girls, boyfriends, whatever that just don't fuck with what you're doing. That just think it's a fucking waste of time because they don't see any money in it.
Hmm.
And once they see money, they're gonna come back to you. But in the meantime, in between time, the period where you're just grinding it out, like, you got to be focused and you got to believe in yourself and
Hmm.
your music and what you're putting out there.
So you said you said it a little earlier about some of your A&R counterparts and your team members. So you work with a team, or is it more so just you?
No, it's myself. I don't have an assistant or anything like that. I really do everything myself, but I do count on a lot of my A&R colleagues. We bounce music off of each other. They send me beats, I send them beats. We send each
Okay.
other artists, writers. I mean, we're pretty much intertwined with
Hmm.
what we're doing for the quarter.
That's
And
dope.
yeah, so that's really cool to have those people in your corner and shit to just bounce music off each other and
And
shit.
that's an example right there. Like, you got to find, your counterparts or A-likes in all areas, even if it's
Yeah.
producers. Now, one
Hmm.
question I was going to ask. So who was some people that helped you at the beginning along the way, that necessarily didn't have to, or might have just been like, like role models or, guided you a little bit?
Um. Oh, definitely shout out Riggs Morales. He was at Shady Records. He was also at The Source, and now he's at Atlantic. Um. He was one of the first people that when I was sending beats, for Eminem and all the Slaughterhouse people and Shady Records fam. He's just really motivating and inspiring and things like that. And I really do look up to him. So he's still in the business too. And I admire people that were in the business back in the day that are still doing shit now.
Yeah,
You
that's
know what I'm
true. That's
saying?
true.
And yeah. So I met a lot of people at Def Jam and G Unit and Atlantic and RCA back in the day. I don't want to name drop too much because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, I
not
understand.
that into that. But
Yeah.
this business is forever changing. So you're always gonna bump into people that used to be at this label or
Hmm.
used to work at this magazine or whatever, and you just bump into them. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, everybody's changed their roles now, whether they're managing artists, they no longer work for a label. All the cubicles closed down pretty much. So um it's crazy. A lot of people do freelance work, like
Yeah, I
myself,
can believe it.
and yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say on that part. Sometimes you never know who's gonna help you, right? And so you can't really burn your
Mhm.
bridges because sometimes help comes from the most unlikely place. From
Yeah.
someone that who might even not be in the same. Let's say might not even be the same thing. Might even be a producer, but they know a good producer event or just well, however it is. But I know like, the relationships and networking is definitely important. Yeah.
Mhm.
So let's talk producer talk now, okay? So it's like, all right, the beats is banging, I'm a producer and I come across you, right? And then so what's the proper way you want somebody to reach out to you to get the most attention from you?
I just appreciate people that have, manners
Mhm.
and a good work ethic great music, great follow up, people that aren't too buggy. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Yeah.
prefer you just, reach out to me. Okay, cool. Send the music. If I hear anything back, I'll definitely be in touch. But then every now and again, maybe every week or two, hey Sarah, I sent this over your email for Jeremiah or for Meek or whoever. I just made some shit for Tori. Check your email. And I'm like, okay, cool. And so I'm always in my email, so I'm always listening. I might not get back to you right away because I don't like to get back to producers prematurely. You feel me? So I can't reply to every single beat. That's why I do beat reviews and consulting. If you're interested in that, you guys can hit me up. But I like to hit a producer when I know something's concrete, when the artist laid something and they're like, yo, Sarah, who is the producer, link me, or, let's do the business aspect of it. That's when I'm going to hit you up.
Okay.
There's some real business.
Dope. Yeah, man, it's definitely going a long
Otherwise,
way.
shit is just hearsay. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true. And I know you're right. It's like two types of people out there. There's ones that just go super hard where they hit you on all social medias. What seems like every 2 minutes. You're like, man, how they even find these accounts?
Right.
And then there's the ones that will hit you up literally like once, and then it's like you should at least find somewhere in between, but not too much,
Yeah, you don't want to turn producers. You do not want to turn A&Rs, managers, DJs, engineers off. Like, you don't want to be that buggy dude that just constantly, yo, is yours my money? Yo, they didn't hit back yet. Yo, they're tripping. Why did they hit? You don't want to be that dude. Because, trust me, when you come across our emails or DMs and you talk like that, like, we're not even trying to get that shit.
Then they go on Twitter and start throwing disses and stuff. Like, come on.
Right. I don't fuck with that shit.
It's crazy. It's crazy. You can't. The comments, just leave it alone. So so I sent you a couple beats now, and let's say you get back to me. You like, in this hypothetical scenario that you like, all right, I like your beats, awesome. What's the next stage after that? After you actually like something they have.
So then after that, I'm trying to find a home for your beats. I'm thinking about what projects I need records for. Right when I hear something, I pretty much know who I want to send stuff to. When I'm shopping records, I'm not just sending to one dude. I'm sending to like 20 different artists that I fuck with that I know is looking for this type of beat. I pitch the beats out, and I'm waiting for replies. It could be tomorrow, it could be next week, 2 months from now. I've placed records from 3 years ago. You just never know. So, and then the artist hits me back, or the management, or A&R, depending upon what camp and what label, and then we do the business aspect of it.
Okay. Dope. And I'm guessing from the producer side that's an exciting time for them, right? I mean, that's good news. That's the confirmation that we all want, that.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that alone is like the beginning. That's enough motivation, to get in there and 5 beats a day.
Yeah.
I'm close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because once you get that one, you don't want to stop. You don't want to drop the ball. The same with artists. Like, once you get that one record, don't stop. Like, keep putting shit out. You know what I'm saying? Stay relevant. Like, this game, you'll be forgotten real quickly. So just keep putting out shit to stay relevant. You got to.
You got to. Now you said that when you hear a beat, you're always listening, and then when you hear a beat, you immediately know what it sounds like. So what's the first thing you listen for when you like start listening to a new recording?
I'm listening for hard drums. I'm listening for key melodies. I'm listening for airtight mixes. I'm listening for if the track is formatted. I'm listening for if it's like a skeleton versus filled out. If it's a complete record, does it have layers to it? Does it have a bridge if it's an R&B record? Does it have transitions? Like, if you're sending me something for like G Unit or, for like 50, something like that, send me shit with transitions, with piano lines. It can have samples in it. Like, I'm listening for everything. Like, I'm an instrumentalist. So I am definitely listening for a lot of dope shit inside tracks. I don't just listen for 808 shit. Simpleton sounding beats. Like, I love complex beats.
Oh, man.
I really do.
And I was going to ask that because, you said 808s. I was going to say that because, a lot of producers, and I don't want to say a lot of producers, but I just want to say after Kanye came out with that 808s and Heartbreaks, it seemed like that was the only thing that they knew how to use, And it was just, everything was an 808, 808, 808. And you're right, there's so many other, sounds. I mean, if you compare Kanye to Pharrell,
Right.
It's a totally different vibe, and they're still just as successful.
Yeah. Shout out my brothers at 808 Mafia. I feel like they really helped pave the way too for a lot of
Mhm.
these 808
Mhm.
tracks and producers that are coming up that have those fucking dope ass drums. I love shit like that. Like I'm listening to a lot of Moneybagg Yo right now. I'm listening to a lot of Jeezy
Oh
new
yeah, that's deep
shit with
drums.
hard drums.
Mm.
Yes, Future, and I love those records. At the same time, is it oversaturated? Yeah, a lot of it is. But you know what? It depends because like you could even have some generic sounding 808 shit, like
Mm.
compared to some really like some really 808 shit that just sounds far left. You know what I'm saying? It
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
has like boom bap with 808 that you could hear different artists on it. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You said, let's see, hard drums. You said formatted too. So now formatting,
Uh-huh.
is that like the mixing and mastering of the beat, or how would you describe the formatting?
Formatting, I'm talking more so the structure of the
Oh,
beat,
okay,
like
the
8
structure. Got it.
16,
Got it.
8 16 bars. Yeah, bars.
So not
Yeah,
necessarily because
because
I
I get
know.
a lot of tracks. Hmm?
No, go ahead.
I get a lot of tracks that aren't formatted, you guys, and what that means basically is it's just a bunch of noise. It's not
Mm,
formatted in sections with like verse sections, with hooks and hook sections. So it's hard for the artist to lay something. So it needs to be completely formatted. You feel me?
got it. Got it. Yeah, I thought like I said, I did more artist on the artist side, so I'm thinking of mixer and mastering. But
Oh, okay.
but I guess when you make a beat, and
Mhm.
this is a technical question, I guess. When you make a beat that someone's gonna
Mhm.
rap on, do you leave it unmastered, or do you? I guess you would, right? Or you don't master an unfinished beat, well, a beat with no lyrics on it.
Mhm. Yeah. No, you wait till it's for sure.
That's what I was
Go
thinking.
time, ready to go.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then the bridge, you're right. There was such a long time where, the I guess artists wanted to separate themselves, and we weren't doing the bridges, and they weren't doing the hooks, and they were trying, the hook on this beat, and just giving a raw flow from beginning to end. And you're right. I mean, I think that's a difference between just a beat maker, a music producer, and then let's say another level.
Mhm.
You got to dig a little deep on it.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Now, when it comes
But
to
yeah.
beats and listening over and over again, like, um, now, what is one thing that you would say, right, that every song must have, or is there nothing that every song should have for it to be like good or solid?
A song or a beat?
Well, I'm sorry, a beat. You're right, a beat.
Oh, a beat. Okay. Um, I would say it would go on a beat by beat basis,
Mm-hmm.
and not confine a producer to one sound and put them in a box. But I feel like some of the key elements we were talking about, mix,
Mm-hmm.
formatting, drums, melodies, like I get beats that have all drums with no melody line, and it's really hard for dudes like Jeremiah, Ty Dolla Sign, Little Baby, dudes that are melodic,
Mm-hmm.
that love to write. It's hard for them to jump on your beat, you
Yeah,
guys,
yeah.
if there's no melody. So that's really important. I think melody is key. I really do. Especially if you're trying to get a big record, especially if you're trying to get it to radio.
Yeah,
Has to
I
have some
agree.
type of dope melodies. If you want to work with writers, producers, I tell you guys all the time, like you have to have those melodies that stand out, that make somebody just want to jump on your beat. Hit you at 3 o'clock in the morning, like, yo, I just laid the craziest hook to this. What's up? Um, so yeah, I think melodies.
Yeah, I agree. I started just browsing BeatStars. Are you familiar with the BeatStars app?
Yeah.
And that was the first time I really saw like beats being bought and sold like that, and then having hooks in, and then even I think even songwriting. I guess being independent and just starting making music, I didn't see that side before. But yeah,
Mhm.
I agree with you. I feel like beat producers get so hungry to work with an artist, but they really should just try to work with a writer. Like like you said, to give it a hook and actually make them produce it the way it can sound, like you said, to really go where it's melodic and where it has the format of a songwriter.
Yeah, no, for sure, definitely.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Now, those beats and hearing and the different elements you just went over, have you ever like heard a beat and then kind of was like, yo, if they just added one or two more things, this could be it? And have you like ever reached out to an artist and then told them to add something or take something away?
I've definitely reached out to a producer and told them, "Yo, can you switch the drums? Can you beef up the drums? Um, can you take out the Little John? And what things that sound dated? You know, I've told producers that if I
uh,
really like the beat,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I heard something in the beat that I think it could just go, but there was this minor thing that they needed to change. Like, yes, I have done that.
yeah. Hmm.
I get a lot of questions from producers regarding artists, like, "Hey, did they ever give you feedback?" No, not really. I could tell you that when they hit me about a beat, it's not like, "Hey, Sarah, can you see if the producer can do that?" No, it's not like
Hmm.
that. It's usually they're hitting me like, "Yo, I just laid something," or "Yo, who's
Hmm.
this producer?" And I tell them.
Yeah,
But it's not so much feedback. And I understand, how producers think as far as feedback, and it's frustrating when you guys are constantly making the music, but you don't know what people are thinking about it.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what
It's
I'm saying?
difficult.
And I know that you wanna know what people think about your music, and that's why I say to always be in a room with somebody where you can test your records.
Hmm.
Whether you have to book a session somewhere and you could test it with this engineer, or test it with your homegirl, or test it with your, little kids or whatever,
Yeah,
because you need to get, responses to your records, so that it's not just only you listening to your beats and you never get feedback,
yeah.
because
That's
I
a
know that's
fact.
frustrating.
Yeah, man, kids, man. If you play a record for a kid and they get into it,
Yeah.
that's
Oh, yeah.
a telltale sign. And in other industries, I've heard the same thing. Like I've heard,
Right.
NFL people getting traded to teams because their kids like them, and even
Uh-huh.
concerts getting booked because some executives kid like this artist. Like it's a lot of that. So kids give a lot of
Right.
insight, and can instantly tell if something's gonna be good or not.
Right. If it's a hit or not.
No,
Right.
no, it's fun. It's funny. It
Exactly.
works out like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Goes down to the kids. So when it comes to being a producer, right? I would say there's two different ways, right? There's ones that study music, and there's ones that sort of pick it up and then just become an expert at it. How do you feel about
Mm-hmm.
some of the music schools like Full Sail or other places like that?
I think it's dope. I think Full Sail's real dope. I think SAE is dope. And I think you're going to find a lot more schools opening and,
Mm-hmm.
teaching. I know they teach a lot of music theory. I know they teach a lot of engineering tips and production stuff. One thing I think that the schools lack is um, kind of connecting them into the field. And you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to really immerse yourself into the field as you would if you would become an intern at a
Mm-hmm.
label,
Yeah.
or become a studio runner or a studio intern. So I think that a lot of people that go to those schools, I think that they should also take it upon themselves to try to develop some kind of internship or mentorship, so that, even though you're learning, like, music theory, and you may
Mm-hmm.
be looking over contracts and things like that, that you're also doing like the groundwork part, which
Yeah.
is building the relationships with key people. Because once you're done with your degree at like a Full Sail and stuff like that, what are you going to do with it? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you have to find a way so that, like, you're actually going to work in that field, whether it's music management or engineering or whatever. I think that's the key part, is the internships, because that's how you're going to build the relationships to the point where they're going to want to hire you.
I agree. I agree. Definitely. I think that's really important. And you
Mm-hmm.
said conferences too. You said producers should definitely be networking in person, getting to beat battles and conferences. So how do you feel about some of the conferences like A3C? I know that's coming up, I believe next week, and just other
Mm-hmm.
conferences like that.
Conferences are very dope to go to. I suggest, if you've never been to one, I tell producers all the time, make sure that you get to a couple per year. You got A3C coming up in October in Atlanta next week. Make sure you're there. You have South by Southwest in Austin, Texas in March every year. Make
Hmm.
sure you go to that. Ill Mind puts on a lot of dope blap events. You have I Standard stuff. You have just different music conferences and showcases, beat battles that will pop up. I tell producers a lot to type in Twitter in the search engine, music conference, music showcase, beat battle, open mic, and you will find different events. I'll be in Houston November 16th looking for producers. I was just in New York. I was in Orlando. I'm going to be in North Carolina. And so I got a lot of music live sessions for producers to come to, feedback, play your beats, chop it up, learn shit about the industry. I also got some new things coming in January as well. So it's really crucial to be networking out here, though. There's no excuse. So just try to find some events, research them before you go to, so that, it is, what you think it is. And bring some branding events, you guys, like some branding tools as far as flash drives with your beats loaded up. Bring T-shirts, business cards. Everything is branding, like when I'm at showcases, big ones, like with my A&R friends. If I see, a dude in the audience with like 10 of his friends and they're all rocking his T-shirts, like we look at stuff like that. Branding is key. So logos, designs, colors, everything. We look at all of that. So just try to think of some creative ways to stand out when it comes to your business and logos and branding yourself.
No, that's definitely great advice. Like you said, I definitely think it's important to have a presence, and producers now, I mean, look at some of the other producers like Scott Storch. Those guys are huge. They're like celebrities on their own,
Yeah.
and so you're right. You gotta basically almost have the same rollout,
Right.
as far
No,
as
you do.
the stickers and the flash drives and the T-shirts, and then gotta have your web page. And
Different weed strands.
Man, get your rolling papers together.
Word.
But I think it's all fun. It's all fun, and I think it adds to it. And especially when you go to conferences. I've been to A3C. I went. I'll probably say 2017 or I think 2017. I went, and then I've been going to South by pretty much every year for the past 3 or 4 years, and it's always a different experience. It's always a great experience. So many connections. And then last year we went to the actual convention at South by. So, and you just sort of, I always try to set like little personal goals for myself. So like you said, like I'll get a whole piece of paper and write out every conference that there is, and knowing I can't go to them all, but I'll pick the ones let's say every month or every 2 months, and then see how close they are, and start, getting people on board and start going. That's really all there is. Start going.
Well, for sure. Just plan and execute. You know what I'm saying? Just do some research, plan that shit out, and go.
And do it. And do it. Yep. Yeah, just get your beats together first, and then hit it, nonstop. So we as far as the producers, and we talked about, there's so many conferences now, ways to get their music out. Are there too many producers? Because at one point it seemed like everybody was making beats.
Yeah, definitely an oversaturated market. It for sure is. I mean, software is so easily to obtain now. Everybody bootlegs it or whatever, gets the crack version of Fruity Loops. But it doesn't matter. I mean, everything is an oversaturated market in some point or fashion. So I feel like it's really comes down to being the best at it. And so if you believe in your music, and then you have a lot of relationships, and you do everything you're supposed to be doing, plus being patient, like it's going to happen for you. You're going to see some type of result. But you got to find ways to stand out too, because I've seen producers with really, really dope music, but they're lazy and they're like introverts and they never get out. So nobody ever hears them and nobody knows them. Nobody even knows what they look like. So I would work on the networking and the branding and the traveling part as much as you're working on the music part, because if you have all those components together, like, you're going to see some results. But if you're lazy on the getting out part and getting in people's faces, it's going to be slow. It just is, and that comes down from the oversaturation. I mean, you got dudes, major artists, 2 Chainz and all these major artists. You have producers in the studio with them every single day. So
Yeah.
imagine you're
Yeah.
competing with the Mike Wills and the 808 Mafia dudes and all these
Yeah.
dudes that have records on the radio, that have discographies, that know people. You're competing with these guys. So if you're not in a major hub like Atlanta, LA, Miami, New York, you have to work 10 times harder at getting your sound out there. And that's why I talk about traveling all the time, because like I said, you're competing with these people that already have placements that artists can already call on them, you know? So
That's
part
that's a
has to
good
be-
point. I didn't even think about that, because you're right. Every time you do see artists, they are in the studio with their favorite producer or their in-house producer. You're right.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. And then when you talk to like my A&R friends, a lot of them are like, yo, let's get some beats from this guy. And they'll name like a guy that already has hella placements out. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it is rare, that that people are finding undiscovered producers.
Yeah.
And you can get placements. You can still get placements, because I have tons of success stories where producers that had nothing just go to that one record, and they move to LA, they buy a crib, and they have records on the radio,
Damn.
or they have a big pub deal, a big admin deal.
Mm.
But you have to really work at that.
Yeah.
Really, really work at that.
So talking about producers and just that competition right there, where it's like you said, artists working with their favorite producer, their in-house producer. How can outside producers sort of separate themselves, in a good way, as far as making themselves stand out?
Standing out by being active in the producer community, collabing with other producers, booking sessions at major studios so that you'll bump into artists and other managers, writers, things like that.
That's big right there.
There's just a lot of angles you have to hit. You have to hit different angles. Like, you can't just make the music, send it through Gmail, or spam these people on Twitter and IG. Like, nobody looks at that shit. You're wasting your time. You're really wasting your time. If you're not hearing back from people, it's like they're getting spammed all day in their DMs and on Twitter and on IG, that it's not effective. You know what I'm saying? And so you got to just find other ways to stand out, and that's through networking and building relationships and traveling. And it goes back to the same things that you keep talking about.
Then that was a real good tip right there. You're right. So many people, they just go to their local studio and they're like, yeah, I'm here. And this is they in their mind, that local studio, whether it's a basement, a garage, or whatever, they're like, this is it. This is where they're gonna find me at. And it's not. You're right. They need to literally take a weekend, book 2 sessions in, let's say, New York at Quad or something, and you know what I'm saying. And then you're right. That is a great idea. And just get in there. You get familiar with the equipment. You know what I'm saying. Get on Instagram, invite some local people through. They said that that you've been following for a while, and then Instagram and Twitter, and that you're right. That's how you create something different. I didn't even think about that. That's a really good advice.
Yeah.
That's really good advice. So I would hate to see what your emails look like, because I know, like you said, that you're probably getting hundreds and hundreds of emails. How many at your most highest email? What was the max number of emails you had in there from producers?
Oh, like 2,000.
2,000.
Yo, I am on BeatFlow SJ 176. I'm on, and I used to do beats for Sarah J. I used to do crack for Sarah J. I used to do BeatFlow. My emails changed so much over the years. So people ask me all the time. They're like, "Well, why do you open up a new?"
Because it's probably just
Gmail?
too deep, right?
Yeah, they're like, "Are you buying stock in Gmail?" I'm like, "No." They're like, "Are you on the run from?" I'm like, "No." Like, I have a certain format of how I listen to shit, and I don't want to flood my fucking laptops are filled with beats, and I have hard drives filled with beats. But I kind of have a system. So, like, if somebody hits me, and they're like, "Yo, I recorded this beat. Who's the producer?" Okay, so maybe in June I was in BeatFlow, SJ, whatever. And so then I kind of go back and I'm able to find it either there or on iTunes. So I have my system down of how I work this shit. I'm real organized.
You got to, especially handling large volume stuff. Definitely got to. So you were talking before about just business and things like that, and taking it to the next level. So when it comes to producers, what business should they have in order to sort of help them transition to the next level?
Oh, that's a great question. So you definitely want to have a lawyer on your team when you feel like you're getting some real business going on. Definitely have somebody that you can call on if you're not sure about contracts or wording, verbiage with certain contracts and producer agreements, things like that. You want to have split sheet template on your laptop, breaks down, who did what on the record, different splits. That's very important. I talk about split sheets with producers all the time and how important that is. And also producer agreements, do your research, do your research of how royalties work, how publishing works, what's the difference between a pub deal versus the administration deal, percentages, breakdowns. Do you have ASCAP or BMI? Do you have CSAC? Do you have SOCAN? What do you have as your PRO? Are you signed up with one? A lot of producers say, oh, yeah, I signed up with one years ago, but I don't know my login. Well, you should know that shit. Like, you should really have this shit organized. You can get a placement tomorrow. Like, you just want to have everything organized. Like, this is a real business. You want to treat yourself
as
a
such.
business professional. Yeah. And have the shit organized and together. Otherwise, nobody's going to take you seriously. You know what I'm saying? And the people that you pay to do work for you, you could be doing this shit on your own. And I get that question so many times a day. They're like, hey, I need a manager. Can you refer me to a good manager if you can't manage me? And I'm like, no, dude, like, you need to do this shit yourself so that when you do have some real business going on, that somebody wants to manage you. Because an active manager in the game right now doesn't want to manage somebody all the time that doesn't have anything going on. Like, they want to work with somebody that already has some placements going on. Otherwise, you're just sitting there in the shopping, pitching stage where it's just everything's in the air. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of how I work too. Like, I manage some producers exclusively, but then I shop everything that comes through my emails around because I don't want to have 300 guys signed to me and then only like 5 are eating. You know what I'm saying? Because then the other ones would talk shit and get pissed. So I try to be fair and just always keep my ear to the streets is what I do. I keep my ear to my emails and my other A&R coworkers that, send me beats and I send them shit. And if something happens when we pitched around, then we do the business aspect of it. But,
Yeah, wow, that was great advice. Because like I said, going back to you, after I booked my session with you, and then you were breaking it down and explaining that. And like I said, I started actually reaching out to real producers and paying them. And I got 2 beats from 2 producers with placements. One was Go Grizz. I think he's doing stuff with Atlantic still. And
oh yeah, he's on fire right now.
Yeah, he's on fire. So I got 2 beats from him, back in the day. And he was like, yo, I gotta basically send you over this whole packet that you gotta sign and email and send back, And so you're right, like, real producers aren't playing around, So
Yep.
I mean, you just gotta sort of speak it into existence, and you gotta, basically, if you want to be on that level, put yourself on that level, and
Right.
and talk to people that know, and then take that advice. Don't blow that information off. So yeah, I had a split sheet, with Go Grizz for the song I released, which was, which was Go Griff, and it was my beat, and I pushed it, and then I did another one with Devin Cruz, and I think he's from Cali. I don't know if he's affiliated with, but he did a lot of beats for I want to say Kid Ink. And he did one with me, and same thing. Sent over a whole packet, read and sign, and certain all this stuff. And I know I had, after that, I got down with ASCAP and I knew my ASCAP number. I knew that much. And but you're right. It's it's like, the more people you talk to, the more information you get, and then. I obviously dropped my first single as an artist the right way. I had split sheets, I had ASCAP, and I had a producer for a beat I paid, and I went in like that. So
Nice.
it's definitely talking about it now is more of accomplishment, but thinking about it,
Right.
thinking about it then, I'm just like, I'm trying to get this out, but I did most of that myself, and it was mostly through just talking with you, honestly, Sarah. So I thank you for
No.
that. Thank you for that, bringing me to awareness
Yeah,
that
no
this was the
problem.
business side. And that's why I sort of brought that question up about the business, because it's really important. Because I don't know if you listened to my last episode. I had a friend I went to college with, and he
Mhm.
actually, it was two stories with him. He actually came into my room and gave me a beat CD, and one of the beat CD was the Shanti Rain
Uh,
on Me instrumental.
oh,
And
okay.
he said he was meeting Irv Gotti after that, and then and then 2003 is when Rain on Me came out,
Uh,
and he said Irv Gotti asked to keep the CD, so he gave it to him. You know what I'm saying? But that was what he said. I'm like, I don't know. So that was crazy. But right,
yeah,
you're
that's
right. You
crazy.
think about if he went into that situation different, if he had his, ASCAP, if he had that, and if he had the paper, if he had, and didn't give him the beat CD, it wouldn't have went down like that.
Right, right,
So
right.
just might as well try to start at the right level, so that way you don't have to try to backtrack.
Exactly.
And then I
That's
had
for sure.
that same friend gave a beat to Game, and actually Game was cold. Game was ice cold, and he gave a
Uh-huh.
beat, the same thing, beat CD to Game, and
Uh-huh.
Game recorded on it that night and put it out, and it blew. And he had to do so much back work to try to get like credit for it, and all that
Right.
stuff. You know, uh,
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
it makes sense. So just I'm kind of talking to the fans out there now, or listeners. It might sound like a lot to go through and find out, but it's worth it. It's worth
Right.
it.
It really is.
Hmm.
No doubt.
Handle that business, get the paperwork in order, and feel good about it. Um,
Yeah.
and then so talk about those examples. What about ghost producing? Right? Is that something? I guess everybody's a ghost producer at the way you deal with them, or not really.
Yeah, I mean, there's ghost producers that are in-house dudes that maybe a larger producer might sign and not really put him in the forefront. I don't really suggest that because I feel like everybody should be treated equally
Hmm.
when it
Hmm.
comes to promo of the record. I think it's so important for somebody to shout somebody out if they're an underdog or they have some contribution to the record. Even with artists these days, like I just wish they wouldn't be so fucking Hollywood and when it comes to promoting the record to be like, yo, shout out
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah,
producer that did
yeah,
this beat so that everybody, can
yeah.
know. Like it's
So
just
they get
really
money.
important for all parties involved. Right,
Hmm.
exactly. Because it does bring you more money and more opportunity once people know. But like nowadays, we gotta search for the producer credits. We gotta search and find and ask around like, yo, who did this beat? Who's the producer? And so that part I think is not cool, but
Hmm.
you know,
And it made me think when you were saying that. I guess that's why a lot of producers started putting their producer tags on there, right? Because it was
yeah,
harder to find
yeah,
them, and that's crazy how the whole game adjusted. Like those guys were like, "Man, I'm not getting any placements." TuneCore was not asking any producer information at all.
wow,
I remember
yeah,
uploading songs, and like I said, my first single, I had, all this paperwork, and they didn't even ask me who made the beat, and I had just been through that whole
hmm,
process with Grizz, and then, so yeah, but then they put the producer tags on there, and I guess that that was how they got it, and that's actually right. I didn't even think about that.
yeah,
Yeah, and I know. So what if?
yeah,
So I guess what I was getting at. So let's say somebody sends you a beat that's not theirs, but they're
hmm.
like trying to push it for somebody else, and then it gets placed, and then what I'm saying. Then they don't say it, and has that ever happened?
No, it hasn't happened with me, but I've heard producer horror stories that that's happened with, but
Hmm.
no, hasn't happened to me.
Okay, that's good because I figured like that would be happening more and more or a lot. People trying to
Yeah,
submit beats that's not theirs,
it's
and
not
then.
theirs, right? Yeah,
Hmm. And then trying to follow up
and
with
act
some
like they did.
nonsense. Yeah, and try to act like they did. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
well, I guess when it comes down to they need the files and the masters and shit like that,
Hmm.
once it becomes a placement, that's going to be a problem because they don't have that shit. You know what I'm saying? So
Damn.
the truth will always get out at the end
So
of the day.
it pays to be honest because it's going, like you said, it's just going to
Hmm.
end up, not going through if they don't have the proper tools.
Hell yeah, your reputation is everything in this business, you guys. Like, just make sure you're doing good business with people. It's going to keep the work coming back to you. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
just be straightforward with people for sure.
So out of some of the producers you've worked with, has anybody won a Grammy from a beat you selected, like a producer?
A Grammy. I placed a lot of records on Tory Lane's album.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that all of them are Grammy nominated, but I've worked with a lot of Grammy nominated producers. A lot of Grammy nominated producers, a lot of them are self-contained, so they might have gotten their placements directly by themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Okay. Now, that goes back to what I was talking about earlier about the difference between a beat maker, a producer, and a Grammy nominated producer. You know, there's different evolutions. I would say. Have you? Can you sort of talk about some of the differences that you see from a beat maker to a producer to a, let's say, a already Grammy nominated producer?
Oh yeah, for sure. A beat maker to me is somebody that's just starting out, that's been producing like maybe 1 to 4 years, that's just getting their feet wet, that's just on the come up, that's developing themselves. I feel like that's a beat maker. A producer is somebody that's been in the game 5 to 10 years, that has a few placements under their belt, that know people, that is just kind of done more groundwork and more work out here. Also, I feel like the difference between a beat maker and a producer and a Grammy-nominated producer, we're really Grammy-nominated producers have to deal with charts and who the industry picks and things like that, because all Grammys are is really industry people's picks when it comes down to it. That's why you have like the Billboard Awards, the American Music Awards, the MTV Awards, those kind of things. But I feel like the real difference between a beat maker and a producer is, are you able to run a session? Are you, if I called you and I was like, yo, I need you to run this, Jay-Z session, are you able to run like the boards? Are you able to run Pro Tools? Are you able to record his vocals? Are you able to bring him from, post-production to a full record with him and kind of like complete the whole session and that kind of thing?
Whoa.
And so some producers aren't at that level yet, but I feel like you can get to that level. You know what I'm saying? All it is experience and practice and patience. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like something where it's like beat makers are horrible and then producers are like on this whole other platform.
Yeah, it's the evolution.
It just depends, like, yeah, exactly, like where you are in your journey,
Yeah, there comes a point where, as a beat maker, you realize the next level and you start to push towards that. Like, I need to learn this, need to learn that, and then that, like you said, then you look back like, oh, I'm a producer now. I'm in every session compared to just being at, let's say, at the crib, and then like you said,
exactly. And everybody, if you're honest with yourself, will not get mad at what we just talked about. Like, you'll just be like, yo, I just started. Like, you can't get mad at that.
Yeah.
If you're a beat maker or you're like a full-fledged producer that knows how to, because you talk to all different kinds of producers, and just by talking to them and knowing how long they've been in the game and who they've worked with and who they've been in the studio with and who they know and who they place records for or who they haven't ever had a placement, you just know right there, like, what level you're at. And it's no disrespect at all. It's just experience and how many years you've been in this shit. So.
Yeah, we don't work this hard to stay the same, right? That's a Hove line.
Yeah, exactly.
We're working hard to change things. You got to change it one day at a time. So no, that's definitely real good information right there, and that's something I recently just saw or heard more people talking about the differences. Because like I said, sometimes artists aren't as in depth as what producers do, and sometimes producers aren't as in depth as what artists do. But you definitely got to have a deep respect for producers, because they are doing a lot of moving parts on making the beats.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at one of those beat programs, you're like, man, what is going on with this?
Right?
Like, oh man, like, it's really intricate stuff, a lot of attention to detail. So that's great. How important is passion when it comes to beat making?
Oh, passion is so important. I mean, if you don't have the passion and determination and, just the will inside yourself to push real hard and to, just create this music that people will want to reach out to you and do some work with you. I mean, what do you really have? You know what I'm saying? So I think that passion is very important, and it's something that just comes from within, and how bad you want it. You know what I mean? Because you can easily burn out in this business from not getting, the results or the reactions that you want. But passion is gonna push you through, because like
Hmm.
only the strong survive in this shit. So if you don't have thick skin and you're just kind of weak minded and you're just kind of going through the industry blind and this really isn't your thing. You can't think about the quick buck. Like you got to be
Hmm.
in this
Hmm.
shit for the long haul. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like it can't just be like, yo, I just want to get this single place and I just want to fucking buy my mom a crib. Like you got to just you can't just think of it like a quick lick. Like this is a slow grind. So you need to treat it like that and just learn everything that you need to know as a producer and just fucking just go on your journey. Like everybody's
Hmm.
journey is different.
Yeah,
You
that's why they call it the career. It's a career.
know?
Career in
The
music.
career, not the
Career.
lottery,
Yeah.
not the lottery,
Not the
not the.
lottery.
I'm just gonna shoot some blind tracks through the Gmail and my shit's gonna take off. Like it
Millionaire.
can't be like that.
Nah, it can't
Yeah,
be
it
like
can't be
that.
like that.
Nah, I knew so many people that were what I would say good at making beats and putting arrangements
Mhm,
together, and they just only made music sometimes. And
mhm,
it's a shame because you're right. I mean, they could take it to whatever level they want. Like you said, they just have to kind of believe in themselves and have that passion. It kind
mhm,
of works for anything. Same thing for a
mhm.
basketball player. Same thing for a football player. Same thing for an artist.
Hell yeah.
Game
Right.
maker and all that stuff. You just gotta, you know, do it. To a certain extent, and be passionate about it.
Mhm.
That's it. So you
For
brought up
sure.
beat battles too. Do you host beat battles?
Yeah, I've done a bunch of beat battles like in New York and different cities. But now I do the live sessions where it's
Mm.
just, 30-minute sessions with me in the studio and we're kind of going over your beats and we're doing beat reviews at the same time also. But I would love to do some more beat battles. I actually have some things that I'm talking with to different promoters in different cities that are hitting me up. So we're trying to get that coordinated, organized. But I love beat battles in New York. I've been to some crazy ones. I've
I
been to
bet.
ones where producers get mad and the fucking security has to come and throw them out because they're mad that they didn't win. Like it's just been insane. I love those though. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that shit is just because you can't get mad at who the crowd and the judges pick. Like, you
Hmm.
just can't get mad at that. You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You're right. You're right. I've
yeah.
witnessed some. I went to school in Atlanta, and
Uh huh.
they had these beat battles at the Apache Cafe.
Oh
And
yeah,
hmm
Patsy. Yeah.
hmm and the guy I had on the podcast before,
Mhm.
he used to do them too, and I used to go. And
Uh huh.
he had a hell of a night. I was so mad I missed that night. He actually had to go up against M16, the producer
Uh-huh.
who did a lot of the Duffel Bag Boy stuff in Atlanta,
Okay.
and he actually won. He actually won against, but it was, you talk about close. He had one in the tuck that I knew he was waiting for, and he brought it out last minute, but he almost
Uh-huh.
the M16 almost got him with that. So it was real
Oh
intense. That was
wow.
real intense. Real judge couldn't even make a
Yeah.
decision. They had to like one more beat. It was crazy, crazy. So yeah, I definitely like beat battles. I like that. It's the energy. It's definitely a different
Right.
energy. You know, because like you
Yeah.
said, sometimes artists will be too cool and come out so swaggy, and sometimes you just kind of want to feel it. And the 808's hitting, the beats are loud. It's hot in there.
Mhm.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's different. So here's a question for you when it comes to beats. So you've been working with beats for a while now. How many years would you say have you been doing this?
About 13, 14 years.
13, 14. So here's the question. Have
Mhm.
you yourself ever made a beat?
No, I get that question all the time. For the record, because you hear all types of different shit on the internet about me and all kinds of shit. No, I'm not a producer. No, I don't think I'm a producer. No, I don't want to be a producer. No, I don't want to take any producers' credits, like all that crazy shit that you hear. I have never made beats
You never even
before. I have
tried?
had close. No, I've had close producer friends show me like
Mm-hmm.
the MPC. And I think the producers that know how to use the MPC are
Oh
geniuses
man,
because when
that's
I
a.
would look at that shit, when they try to show me, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yo, what the fuck? Like, there's no way I could figure that out. Now, I do have turntables when I was
Okay.
in LA. Like, I bought some turntables and I was really good at Serato and like figuring that shit out on my own. Like, nobody showed me. And so that I can work and I was really getting into that shit. But, No, not make a beat.
Not make
I
a
really
beat.
am not. No.
You know, you should do some YouTube
Think I should
content
try?
and do Sarah makes a beat, and then just each episode will be a process of you making a beat.
My progress, huh? My
Yeah,
progress.
it'd be your progress. That'd be interesting to watch.
That's crazy. Then I would cut out the middleman. Then I would like fucking make beats. No, I can't
You
do that.
it'd be Sarah on the beat.
Oh shit,
Yes.
no.
So
So
when it
no, for the record, no.
no, okay. You know, but when it comes to producers, like mainstream producers, who's your favorite that you like to hear?
Um, that I don't like to answer that question so much, just because it's kind of like name dropping me. So I
Yeah,
try
yeah.
to steer away from like who's your favorite producer or
Okay, yeah, I can
things
see that.
like
No, it's just
that.
I can
I
see
do
that.
have I have a lot of producers that I really fuck with and I really admire and love their music, but it's so many. You know what I'm saying? It's really a lot. It's a lot that I love.
Yeah, I would say my top
There's-
five producers, mainstream is definitely Kanye,
Okay.
Pharrell, you know,
Uh-huh.
Timberland, you know, pretty generic. I guess Premier, you know, and things like that. But then the underground is a little bit different though, you know. I really like, as far as underground, I like Reezy Renegade a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That man, I don't know what he
He's
was
dope.
drinking or smoking when he made that. Was it black tape? But
Oh
Jesus,
yeah.
man, that's still like the number one instrumental tape downloaded on Dat Piff. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
shit is hard.
classic, and he dropped the second one, and then with all this Griselda talk, of Benny and his whole team and the whole Buffalo, Derringer. Oh my gosh, this guy Derringer, those beats that he's giving Benny is classics. And then Black, of course, Black Metaphor. Black Metaphor really always. I don't know. He would make beats that I just felt like nobody else can make. So I really like Black Metaphors. That's like my top three
Yeah, he's
underground
dope.
producers. Yeah, that's
what's up.
really it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he's dope.
yeah. So I mean, I don't want to take up all your time, but I think you've dropped a lot of jewels. And if people listening didn't find a way to get to the next level after this opportunity, then I don't know what to tell them.
Yeah,
I think you
no,
gave
for
some
sure.
great information.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. You guys can hit me up on my IG, SJ Manager. My Twitter is SJ Manager. I'm really active and heavy on those. Every single day I'm dropping jewels. I'm talking about something. I'm posting something on my story. Motivational pieces, you know what I'm saying? I try to get to everybody's email and DM at some point. If you have beats to send me, I'm in beatflowsj176@gmail. We're also going to be in Houston on November 16th. I got a lot of shit I'm working on for the new year. You're just going to have to stay tuned because I can't tell you everything right now, but it's some really dope content coming out.
And believe her, she's definitely not lying. I've been following Sarah for a while, and she's stayed busy, and it's definitely encouraged me to keep busy. And then, like I said, she's one of the first people that actually brought the conversation about getting your business straight. So definitely want to thank her again for that. And yeah, I think it's been a great conversation. Thank you so much for making the time. I'm actually going to put this interview out immediately because it's so hot. Everybody been waiting for it. So definitely you can find this on either my Twitter, which is awesome NOBDY. I'll probably do a swipe up link on my Instagram, which is at awesome_nobody. And then also YouTube, it'll be up there as well. And then if you have Spotify, the podcast is on Spotify and Anchor, which is another podcast platform. So yeah, this is what we do. We're dope in real life. Thank you guys for all listening. And I hope that this information has been a good behind the scenes look. And yeah, tweet back at me, at Sarah, and let's hear what you guys got. This is Awesome Nobody signing off. Awesome Nobody Podcast. Peace.